Close your eyes. Imagine drifting far beyond Earth, beyond the moon, beyond the warmth of our sun. You are not falling, you are floating, slowly, softly, into the dark. This darkness is not frightening. It is vast, yes, but it is still. It holds you. Around you, stars scatter like grains of light across a velvet sea. In this great ocean of silence, there is something more than emptiness. There is tension, stretched like a quiet string between galaxies. You cannot hear it with your ears, but your mind begins to notice. The space between the stars is not just space. It is breathing. Breathe in. The universe does too, in a way that is far older than lungs. Galaxies drifting away from each other gently, persistently. The farther apart they are, the faster they seem to move. Not because of force, but because of something deeper. It is not gravity that pulls them. It is something that pushes. Out here, in the stillness between star clusters, that push is quiet but steady. It has no color, no glow. It doesn't tug like gravity, doesn't press like wind. It expands, silently, endlessly, like the space itself is growing from within. For a long time, no one knew this. Astronomers believed the expansion of the universe might be slowing down, as if gravity were trying to call everything back. But the stars had a different story. When we looked at ancient light from exploding stars called supernovae, we saw something strange. Those stars were dimmer than expected. Farther away, the universe wasn't slowing down. It was speeding up. Imagine that. The entire cosmos stretching faster and faster, not falling inward, but drifting apart with growing space between every cluster of stars. This quiet, mysterious expansion isn't driven by planets or dust or fire. It is driven by something invisible, something we call dark energy. It's a name, not an answer, a placeholder for a force we do not fully understand. We know it is there, not because we see it, but because we see what it does. Dark energy fills the vacuum, not as a thing, but as a quality of the space itself. Like the still surface of a lake that slowly widens in every direction, dark energy acts on the canvas of the cosmos, calm, persistent, and unseen. You drift now, body relaxed, weightless in thought. No need to grasp for meaning yet. Just let the silence hold you. This is the silence that stretches between galaxies, between the spirals of ancient starlight and the newborn suns. You are in a place where the rules are large, and time moves like molasses. Gravity still exists here. It holds planets close, weaves galaxies together. But over the vastest distances, it is dark energy that wins. And what does it mean to win? Not destruction, not collapse, not an explosion, just distance, just more space, woven gently into the threads between stars. Picture a sheet, gently pulled at its corners, not sharply, but endlessly. Everything on the sheet moves farther apart, not because it wants to, but because the sheet itself is changing. This is your stage, the soft, ever-widening stretch of space-time. And you, floating in this idea, feel the pulse of something grand and invisible. Not a heartbeat in the human sense, but a rhythm nonetheless. A slow tempo of expansion, a whisper of distance growing, a pulse not from stars but from the fabric that holds them. It is strange, isn't it, to think that most of the energy in the universe, nearly 70%, is not something you can touch, or see, or hold. And yet it moves everything, not with pressure, but with presence. In this silence, you begin to understand that not all forces are loud. Some work through stillness. Some speak only through the way other things behave around them. This is how dark energy speaks, not with sound, but with the growing gaps between stars. And so, you drift. Your thoughts slow. The stars do not rush. They move apart like lanterns carried on distant winds, a breeze you cannot feel, but can believe in. And just as you begin to feel the shape of this silence, a question forms gently in your mind. Where did you come from? You, made of atoms, made of fire, watching from this place of breath and expansion. You turn slowly, as if in space, toward the warmth that once was everything, toward the fire that came before the dark. You turn now gently toward the warmth behind the dark, not a flame you can touch, but a fire that once filled everything, bright beyond brightness, hotter than any star you know. The universe was not always silent. It began in light, not the soft light of a candle or the golden glow of a setting sun, but a light so fierce it carried all matter within it. It did not burst into space. It was space, unfolding. This is the Big Bang, not an explosion, but a beginning, a swelling, a moment where time began to tick, where space began to stretch, and where energy, for the first time, had somewhere to go. In the very first breath of existence, everything was compressed, smaller than a grain of sand, hotter than thought can hold. Then, in a moment of expansion, the universe began to cool, just enough to let particles form, to let light travel free. You float now through that ancient heat, watching the first seconds stretch into minutes. Protons and neutrons collide and cling, forming the earliest atoms, hydrogen, helium, the simplest kinds of matter. They are the seeds of stars drifting through the young cosmos. And you too are drifting, backward, forward, sideways in thought, realizing something beautiful. Your body is made of these same atoms. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the oxygen that fills your lungs as you breathe, all of it comes from stars. Because the early universe did not stay quiet for long, gravity took hold, a slow, patient artist. It pulled gas into clumps, and those clumps grew hot, and in their hearts fusion began. Stars were born. You hover gently near the first of them, massive, short-lived, burning fast. In their cores, elements heavier than hydrogen were forged. Carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, iron. These stars lived like firecrackers. Brief, bright lives, ending in spectacular deaths. When they exploded, as supernovae, they scattered their contents across the cosmos. You picture it, a cloud of stardust billowing outward, drifting for eons until it finds other clouds, other stars, other worlds. One day, long after, on the edge of a spiral galaxy, around a yellow star, a planet forms from that dust. And one day after that, a being opens their eyes, breathes in the oxygen made by stars and wonders where they came from. That being is you. You are a collection of particles that once swam in the heart of a star, a body built from cosmic ash, sparked into life by time and chance. This is not poetry. This is the literal truth of science, that your body is ancient, older than mountains, older than Earth itself. And so you breathe, and so you dream, carried in the current of something much larger. But while stars gave you form, they did not do it alone. Remember the push you felt in the last chapter, the stretching between galaxies. That too was there, even in the beginning. Scientists call it the cosmological constant, a term first whispered by Einstein, abandoned, then rediscovered, like a forgotten song that proves true again. Dark energy was quiet then, a background hum behind gravity's work. But it never left. It simply waited for space to grow large enough for its voice to rise. You, born of gravity and starlight, are also shaped by that silence, the silent pull outward, the unseen hand guiding galaxies apart. It's strange, isn't it? You're pulled in two directions, one toward the stars that formed you, and one away, toward the expanding edges of the universe. Like all things, you are suspended between the past and the possible. And now, as you float back from that cosmic fire, you begin to notice something in the distance. Not heat, but motion. Galaxies moving, space stretching, not chaotically, but rhythmically, as if the universe itself were breathing. You're not separate from that breath. You're part of it. You're one long inhale, part of a story that moves in waves. But how does that breath change over time? And what happens when the outward stretch begins to speed up? As you turn to drift forward again, that question begins to softly unfold. You drift now through time as though it were a soft current, carried gently forward by the breath of the cosmos. It is not a storm. It is not a race. The universe expands not like a roar, but like a sigh. Galaxies move away from each other, not because they're fleeing, but because the space between them is quietly growing. Like fabric being slowly woven wider, the threads stretch, and everything upon them stretches too. Imagine placing dots on a balloon, then watching it inflate. The dots don't move on their own, but they grow farther apart as the surface between them grows. This is how galaxies drift. And in this slow expansion, there is rhythm, not mechanical, but musical, like waves that rise and fall in a sea so vast it touches every direction at once. You picture this movement. You see the galaxies as lanterns suspended in night, each glowing with its own quiet light, each floating gently apart from the rest. This is the breath of the universe, the slow inhale, the graceful exhale, not once, but always, a motion that never stops, only changes pace. Billions of years ago, the expansion was steady, governed mostly by gravity, a gentle resistance to the outward pull. Galaxies formed, clusters gathered, gravity sculpted patterns across the sky. You might say the universe was young, settling into its shape, like a body finding its rhythm in the first moments of sleep. But then, something changed. Not suddenly. Nothing in the universe moves suddenly at this scale. It shifted the way the sky changes color at dusk, so slowly you don't notice until it's already happened. The expansion began to speed up, not in a leap but in a long, soft acceleration that we would only discover long after it began. You can imagine it as walking up a hill and realizing after many steps that the incline is less steep than you thought. Your steps grow longer, your pace increases, the path itself begins to stretch. Out here, in the cosmic dark, that stretching is silent, but it changes everything. Stars will one day drift so far apart that their light may never reach one another again. Galaxies will grow lonely, each trapped within its own island of space. But not yet. Not now. Now the universe still sings with structure. Galaxies still dance in slow spirals. Clusters still pull at each other like tides. But the breath beneath it all is deepening, a kind of quiet hurry building beneath the surface. Scientists noticed this by studying light, old light, ancient light, from stars that lived and died long before Earth was born. They measured the way this light stretched, like notes falling slowly in pitch. They expected the universe to slow. Instead, they found it gliding faster. A mystery, hidden in the most gentle of motions. And so we came to understand that space is not passive. It is not just an empty backdrop. It has its own behavior, its own tendencies, its own push. And that push, we call it dark energy, is now in command. You feel it now, not as pressure, but as possibility. A gentle, endless unfolding. A horizon that keeps moving away no matter how far we look. This expansion is not something you can escape. You are within it, always. Every breath you take is stretched slightly by it. Every distant star you gaze at is part of the same motion. You begin to realize the universe doesn't just grow. It teaches you how to be patient, how to accept movement without noise, how to stretch slowly and then still remain whole. As you float deeper into this idea, you may begin to wonder, what does it mean to live in a universe that is not only growing, but growing faster? Where does this path lead? Does expansion continue forever, or will it reach some strange silent limit? And most of all, what force, what invisible hand is doing the pushing? You're drifting now at the edge of sight, not your sight, but the universe's. There is a kind of light that takes billions of years to reach us. By the time it arrives, the stars that sent it have long gone cold. Yet the light remains, a soft echo of the cosmos unfolding. Astronomers look into this light the way dreamers look into memory, searching not just for brightness, but for meaning in the way it fades. And one day, in the gentle glow of ancient stars, they notice something strange. The year was 1998. Two teams of scientists working separately turned their eyes to the most reliable beacons in the cosmos, type Ia supernovae. These supernovae are like cosmic candles, exploding stars that shine with nearly the same brightness, no matter where or when they erupt. Because they are consistent, they let us measure vast distances across space. You can imagine them like lighthouses scattered across a dark ocean. The dimmer the light appears, the farther away it must be. But when the astronomers compared the brightness of distant supernovae to those nearby, they found a gentle contradiction. The faraway stars were too dim, not just far, but farther than they should have been. And in that dimness was the key to something astonishing. The universe was not just expanding, it was accelerating, speeding up, moving faster with each passing eon. The discovery shook the sky, not with noise, but with silence, a quiet realization that the fabric of reality was being pushed apart by something we could not see. You pause with this thought, float inside it. Expansion you had accepted, but acceleration, that is different. That is a change not just of movement, but of fate. What could cause this? Not matter, not gravity. Those pull things together. This was something else, something that repels but without contact. We gave it a name, dark energy. The words are soft in the mouth, but heavy with mystery. Dark, not because it is evil, but because it is unknown. Energy, because it seems to act, not as a thing, but as a quality of space itself. You imagine dark energy like a hum running through every point in the universe, silent, steady, invisible. It does not gather in stars or swirl in galaxies. It does not clump or collide. It is everywhere, equally present in the spaces where nothing else is. And it pushes, not suddenly, not sharply, but eternally. As you breathe now, that push is still happening. Every second, every inch of space grows slightly, not because of motion, but because of the nature of space itself. The discovery changed everything. It meant that the fate of the universe was not a slow return to a denser, colder form. It meant expansion would never stop, not in our lifetime, not in any lifetime. And that knowledge shifted not just science, but imagination. You may wonder how we could be so certain. After all, the stars are so far away. But the light does not lie. The ancient light carries the story of change in its very stretch, its wavelengths pulled longer as space itself expands during the journey. We call this redshift, because light moves toward the red end of the spectrum as it stretches. And the redshift of those far-off supernovae told us, clearly and quietly, that space is speeding up. It was as if the universe whispered, "I am growing faster now. Can you feel it?" And yes, we can. You feel it too in the way everything you've learned so far has been building toward this. The silence between stars, the breath of space, the story of your body born in fire. All of it is part of a picture that now includes a force we do not understand but cannot ignore. Dark energy. It makes up most of the universe. More than stars, more than planets, more than all the visible matter combined. Think of that. Most of the cosmos is not what we see, but what we cannot see. And yet it shapes everything. It bends the future. It stretches the sky. You may feel small in this thought, a single mind floating in a universe filled with something so vast and ungraspable. But you are not lost. You are within it. You are not outside this story. You are woven into it. Because here you are, breathing, thinking, feeling your way through the night with wonder. And wonder is the first step toward understanding. Now, as you float through this idea, you begin to notice the horizon ahead. It is not an ending, but a deepening. If dark energy continues to push, what does that mean for the stars, the galaxies, the very atoms of your being? If expansion never slows, could it eventually pull everything apart? Not just galaxies, but gravity itself. Could the fabric of space stretch so far that even atoms can no longer hold together? You rest now in a place without walls, a place where time drifts slowly, and questions form like clouds. You've seen the stars move apart. You've heard the silent breath of expansion. But now, your mind returns to something quieter, deeper. What is this thing we call dark energy? You close your eyes and feel it again, not as a touch, not as a light, but as a soft shift beneath everything, a tension perhaps, or a widening. It has no face, no image you can hold, no shape to draw in your thoughts. Dark energy is not a planet or a particle, not something that spins or glows or clumps. It doesn't gather in halos or spiral in storms. It doesn't live in atoms or echo in waves. Instead, it is everywhere, spread evenly across all of space, even in the emptiest places. It's not even a thing exactly. It's more like a property, a whisper stitched into the fabric of reality itself. Some say it's a kind of energy that lives in the vacuum, a hum beneath the silence. Even in the absence of matter, space is not truly empty. It is restless. It bubbles with possibility. Tiny fluctuations dance in and out of being, born from the quantum foam that underlies all existence. Maybe dark energy rises from that foam, not as a roar, but as a constant pressure, a gentle outward push that grows stronger as the universe expands. But we don't know, not truly. You can feel the uncertainty now, soft and round, not sharp. It doesn't frighten you, it invites you. Dark energy is a puzzle the universe has placed gently in our hands, and we, curious and small, have only just begun to turn it over. Some theories call it the cosmological constant, a term Einstein once used, then rejected, then perhaps predicted without knowing. A constant, not like a star that flickers, but like a steady hum woven into every corner of space-time. In this model, dark energy is the same everywhere, always, unchanging, unwavering. A subtle pressure that grows only because space itself is growing. But other ideas are more fluid. Some scientists imagine dark energy not as a fixed background, but as a shifting field, something dynamic, something evolving. They call it quintessence, an echo of the ancient belief in a fifth element, beyond earth, air, fire, and water. Something invisible but real, moving through everything. In this vision, dark energy is not a constant hum, but a changing note in the symphony of the cosmos. It might grow, It might fade. It might even disappear someday, leaving the universe to a different fate. You let these possibilities swirl around you now, like leaves in a slow current. None of them land, not yet. And that's okay. Not every mystery needs to be solved before sleep. Some can simply be held. You realize that knowing something exists is not the same as understanding it. We see dark energy in what it does, in the way galaxies drift apart, in the way light stretches, in the gentle curves of space. But we do not see it. We feel its signature, like wind moving through tall grass. You don't see the wind. You see what it touches. It is a strange kind of presence, just defined by absence. It has no voice, yet it changes the song. And still, you're not afraid. You're fascinated. Because this is how science grows, not with loud answers, but with quiet questions that deepen over time. You drift through this thought like a ship gliding through starlight. You are part of this universe, made of its matter, bound by its gravity, shaped by its expansion. And now you know, even what you cannot see can shape your journey. You return to the image of space stretching, of galaxies drifting farther apart, and you wonder, if this force keeps pushing, what happens to the stars, to the galaxies, to the bonds between everything? How far can the universe stretch before it starts to tear? The future does not arrive with footsteps. It comes like a tide, quiet and steady, reaching even while you sleep. Now, as you float beyond theory and into time yet unlived, you feel the edge of something unknowable, not in fear but in wonder, because every breath of the present contains a question about tomorrow. You know this now. The universe is growing, faster than before. With every passing moment, the distances between galaxies increase. But what lies at the end of that expansion? There is no single answer, only possibilities, some gentle, some strange, some beyond imagining. You drift through them slowly, letting each one pass through you like a dream you do not need to hold. The first is the quietest. In this vision, dark energy continues as it has been, steady, constant, unwavering. The universe keeps expanding. Galaxies drift farther and farther apart until they no longer see each other. The night sky grows emptier. Stars burn out one by one. No new ones are born. You imagine this far future cosmos as a still, dark sea, silent, vast, lonely. Not cold in anger, cold in peace, a final exhale. They call it the heat death, not because of fire, but because of equilibrium. Everything spreads so thin that nothing can happen anymore. No reactions, no light, no change. Time would still move, but nothing would mark its passing. A universe not destroyed, but simply done. You drift away from that image, let it dissolve like mist, because that is only one path. There is another, stranger, more sudden, more final. It is called the Big Rip. You feel the words like cloth tearing. In this idea, dark energy is not constant. It grows stronger over time. And if it grows too strong, if it begins to overwhelm even the tiniest bonds, then the expansion could become catastrophic. First, galaxies fall apart, then solar systems, then planets, atoms, space itself. You picture it not as an explosion, but as a slow unraveling, a cosmic loosening, where even the rules of physics can no longer hold themselves together. It is not violent, it is inevitable. If dark energy grows without limit, the universe will not end in silence, but in a soft, final shatter. You let that image pass too. Let it float away. Because there are other stories, other futures. Some theories suggest that dark energy could fade, like a wind that runs out of breath, like a tide that turns. Maybe one day the expansion slows, gravity begins to gather its strength again, and the universe falls gently inward. Galaxies return, stars spiral close, a collapse, slow and dignified. They call it the Big Crunch, a return to the beginning, an inhale after the exhale. Maybe, just maybe, a new universe is born from the ashes of this one. You linger here a little longer, because this future is circular and there is comfort in the idea of beginning again. But still, we do not know. That is the truth, whispered through all these ideas. We do not know what dark energy truly is. We do not know what it will become. And yet, we look, we wonder, we imagine. You feel the strength in that now, the quiet power of curiosity. Even in the face of uncertainty, we ask the sky questions. Even knowing we may not hear answers, we listen. You are part of that listening, a mind shaped by stardust, floating now in thoughts about ends and eternities. And still, you are calm, because none of these futures are rushing. They move at the pace of the cosmos, billions of years long, slower than your dreams. The stars above you tonight are not in danger. Your galaxy still spins. Your sun still shines. You're safe in the early chapters of a story so long and so vast you could spend 100 lifetimes and never see the page turn. But tonight, you have turned it in thought. You have travelled to the far edges of time and returned. And as you settle back into stillness, another question begins to form, soft and bright. Not about the end, but about the beginning again. If dark energy fills the universe now, was it always there? Was it present, even at the birth of everything? Your thoughts drift backward now, toward the first seconds of time, where a fire brighter than galaxies may have hidden the seeds of dark energy all along. You drift now toward the beginning, not a place but a moment, small beyond imagining, bright beyond seeing, where all of time is curled inside the tiniest breath. The Big Bang is not a bang as you know it. It is not an explosion in space. It is the creation of space itself, an unfolding, an awakening. You float near it, softly, as one might float near the memory of birth. Everything was once together. All the stars, the galaxies, the laws of physics, compressed into a point with no edges, no before, only potential. And then, expansion. A flash not of fire, but of becoming. The universe expanded rapidly in those first moments. So fast, so far, so sudden, that even light could not keep up. We call it cosmic inflation, a breath so deep it stretched space in all directions before particles could even take form. It lasted only a fraction of a second, but its impact echoes forever, like the ripple from a pebble that still moves the far edges of the pond. And here, even now, you wonder, was dark energy born then? Was it part of that first stretch? You feel the question open like a flower. No one knows for certain, but some believe dark energy is a relic, a leftover whisper from inflation, still humming quietly through space. A memory that never faded. In the earliest, universe, energy and matter were wild, colliding, combining, shaping reality. Yet dark energy, if it existed, was quiet, not interacting, not fusing, not clumping. Just present, passive, waiting. And maybe that's the most mysterious thing of all, that something so gentle could still be here, long after the fire has cooled. You drift beside the forming atoms now, hydrogen, helium, the soft breath of starlight to be. Everything is still hot but cooling fast. The universe is young and expanding, and yet, already the seeds of its acceleration may have been planted. In the quantum fields that underlie reality, there are fluctuations, tiny, unpredictable, ever-present. Some scientists think that dark energy arises from these vacuum fluctuations, a background pressure built into the very geometry of space. Others wonder if it is something deeper, a property of space itself, not an effect, but a condition. You let these ideas swirl without settling, because in this chapter, you're not seeking answers. You're learning how to float in the unknown. After the Big Bang, the universe expanded, but gravity resisted. Matter clumped, stars formed, galaxies danced. And for billions of years, dark energy was silent. You imagine it like a tide held back, invisible, waiting patiently until space had grown wide enough for its push to be felt. It is only recently, cosmically speaking, that dark energy has taken the lead. You picture time like a long, winding river. At first, gravity pulls strongest, guiding the flow. But further downstream, the banks widen and something else begins to shape the current. That something is what you feel now, a presence not born of matter, but of space itself. You are here, floating just above the first seconds, and you realize the universe has always held more than we could see. Its birth was not a fire that burned out, but a question that never stopped unfolding. And now, as you drift gently forward in time again, you carry this truth with you, that the cosmos was never simple, even when it was small. That even in the first heartbeat of existence, there were secrets that would take billions of years to softly unfold. You are part of that unfolding. You're made of matter that formed from ancient heat, that clumped under the pull of gravity, that now drifts ever outward, held in place by forces you cannot touch, but can still feel. And you are still floating, carried gently forward on the breath of something vast and unseen. So you close your eyes and let yourself wonder once more. If dark energy was present in the first second, could it also shape what comes before beginnings or after ends? You're floating now not through stars, but through something deeper, the quiet curve of space itself. You've felt the expansion. You've seen galaxies drift. You've wondered about the energy that makes them part ways. But now you look around, not at things, but at the structure that holds everything. Space. Silent, invisible, yet never still. You begin to wonder, if space is stretching, if it's growing because of dark energy, what shape does that growth take? You picture a sheet gently pulled from all sides. Is it flat like a calm lake, curved like a sphere, or shaped like a saddle, endlessly folding? Scientists have asked the same. And the answer, delivered not in sound but in light, is strange and beautiful. They study the cosmic microwave background, a soft afterglow of the Big Bang, still shining across the sky like heat from a long-extinguished fire. In its patterns, its warmth and shadows, they read the shape of space itself. And what do they find? The universe is flat, not flat like paper, flat in its geometry, a vast even plane where parallel lines never meet, and light travels in straight lines forever. But how can something so vast be flat? It's not a surface. It's not floating in anything. Space is all there is, and its flatness means it isn't curled in on itself like a sphere, nor splayed outward like a hyperbolic wave. It's balanced, perfectly balanced, as if the tug of gravity and the push of dark energy have been playing a game of stillness since the beginning. You let this idea settle into your chest, a flat universe that stretches in all directions like an endless lullaby. But here too, dark energy leaves its mark, because the geometry of the universe is linked to its fate. How it bends tells us how it will move, and whether that motion will ever stop. In a universe ruled only by matter, the shape would decide everything. A flat universe would coast gently forever. A closed one would fall back in on itself. An open one would fly apart endlessly. But dark energy changes the rules. It turns shape from destiny into description. Even in flatness, dark energy drives acceleration. Even in balance, the push continues. And so you find yourself in a universe both simple and strange, flat in shape, but not in story. You drift farther now into the deeper meaning of shape. You imagine walking in a straight line forever. In a curved universe, you might return to your starting point. In a saddle-shaped one, paths diverge endlessly, but in a flat universe, distance only increases. Every step forward is a step into more space. You feel the poetry in that, the comfort of direction, the calm of symmetry. Dark energy doesn't curve space like gravity does. It doesn't make valleys or peaks. It simply adds space where there was none. Like breath filling a lung, like time itself stretching to make room for dreams. And yet, despite its silence, dark energy leaves traces. It changes how clusters of galaxies grow. It shapes how light from distant stars bends. It influences how large the largest structures become. You cannot see it, but you can see the map it leaves behind. You picture a great canvas, galaxies scattered like droplets of paint. The pattern isn't random. It whispers of invisible forces pushing and pulling across cosmic time. Dark energy has no form, but it gives form to the universe. It has no edges, but it sets the stage for where edges might one day be. You begin to understand the shape of the cosmos is not just a scientific question, it's a quiet reflection of how the universe lives. Balanced, expanding, endless, but not empty. And here you are, a thinking mind, drifting through flat space held together by atoms shaped in stars guided by a force that has no name beyond mystery. You're made of the visible, but you are surrounded by the unseen. And that unseen is not absence. It is the space between, the shape of what connects. Now you float through that space, not with fear, but with peace. Because dark energy, though strange, has always been part of the fabric that holds you gently in place. You have learned how it moves, how it stretches, how it bends nothing into something. And now you begin to wonder, if space itself stretches, can time stretch too? Can moments be shaped as surely as distance? You feel time slow now, not because you're tired, but because the next chapter will take you into the nature of time itself, and how dark energy may be shaping not just where you are, but when. There is a clock beneath the stars, but it does not tick like yours. It does not chime. It does not pause. It moves slowly, gently, across the deep fabric of everything. Tonight, as you drift beneath the widening sky, you begin to feel time as something soft, not numbers, not deadlines, just movement, the unfolding of change. You're used to time as rhythm, a steady beat you can walk to, heartbeats, footsteps, the turning of days. But the universe keeps its own rhythm, and in the presence of dark energy, that rhythm bends. You lie quietly, and you remember. Space is expanding. Galaxies are drifting. Distances grow not because things are moving through space, but because space itself is growing. And time rides on that expansion. You begin to see time and space not as two things, but one. Space-time, woven together like warp and weft, each one shaping the other. When space stretches, so does time. Imagine a balloon slowly inflating. 2 points on its surface grow farther apart. If you were a tiny traveler on that surface, you wouldn't feel the stretch, but you would experience it as distance gained, as time passed. This is what happens on the grandest scale. Cosmic expansion is not just a stretching of space, but of how time itself flows across that space. You picture light from a distant galaxy traveling toward you. The longer the journey, the more stretched the light becomes. Its color shifts red, its frequency slows. This is not just about color. It is about time slowing down on its way to you. We call it cosmic redshift, but in your heart you might call it the slow fading hum of ancient clocks. You imagine a galaxy sending out light 10 billion years ago. The moment that light left, the universe was smaller, more compact. As space stretched, the wave of light stretched with it, its rhythm lengthening. So when that light reaches you now, its time is different. You're not just seeing distance, you're seeing the past through a lens that stretches time itself. And in this stretching, dark energy plays its quiet part. Its presence in the universe's expansion means that time is not flowing at a constant pace. It used to move differently. In the early universe, matter and radiation were in charge. Time flowed quickly because gravity was strong, pulling things together. But as dark energy began to dominate, the pull became a push. Time began to slow in its rhythm, even as the universe rushed outward. It's a paradox that feels like poetry. Faster expansion, but slower time. Not in your clock, not in your breath, but in the grand orchestration of galaxies and light. Even now you live in a chapter of the universe where the flow of time is shaped by something unseen. It doesn't affect your day, your tea, your sleep, your dreams, but it does mean that when you look outward, you're looking into a slower heartbeat, into stretched moments, into light that traveled across a changing fabric of space and time. And if dark energy continues, if it grows stronger, the ticking of the cosmic clock may grow quieter still. One day, distant galaxies may fade entirely from view, not because they stop shining, but because the space between you and them will stretch faster than light can cross. Imagine that, a time when light itself cannot keep up. You would look into the sky and see only your own galaxy, a lone island in a sea of quiet darkness. But even then, the clock would still be ticking. The universe would still be changing. Time would still be flowing, just more slowly than your mind can follow. And yet, there is beauty in that too. Because it means that the universe does not rush. It unfolds with patience, with elegance, with rhythm you can feel in your chest if you sit still long enough. You're made of atoms that were born in stars that lived in galaxies that formed in the early stretches of time when gravity still held more sway than dark energy. And now you float in this chapter where time itself is shaped by what we do not see. You're not separate from it. You're inside it. Living, you're seconds on a canvas shaped by billions of years. And that makes your breath part of the clock too. Now, as your eyes grow heavier, you wonder one last thought. If dark energy can stretch time, could it also reach across realities we cannot yet imagine? Is our universe just one clock among many, or part of something even larger, still gently unfolding? You rest now in a place beyond space, not above it, not outside it, but beyond, in a way only thought can travel. You have followed dark energy across galaxies through time's stretching thread, through curves and whispers and fates unmeasured. But tonight, your mind asks something else. Is this universe the only one? You feel the question arrive like a feather landing in snow, soft, weightless, but deeply felt. Science is quiet here, not silent, but careful. because this is the place where theories walk slowly and certainty is left behind. Still, there are clues, tiny openings in the curtain. Some scientists believe that if inflation, that sudden, violent expansion just after the Big Bang, happened once, it could happen again. And not just once more, but endlessly. They call it eternal inflation, a process where space expands not as one single act, but like a tree forever blooming new branches. You imagine it now, our universe as a bubble, a shimmering sphere floating in a sea of growing space. Around it other bubbles form, some big, some small, some bright, some strange. Each one a universe, with its own laws, its own shape, its own rhythm. This is the multiverse. Not a science fiction dream, but a scientific possibility, born not from fantasy, but from equations. If dark energy is a feature of empty space, and space is always expanding, then perhaps every bubble that forms carries its own kind of dark energy, its own pressure, its own fate. You float now through this imagined sea, where universes bloom like soap bubbles, silent, fragile, each one unaware of the others. And yet, yours exists. You exist. In this one, galaxies form, stars shine, life becomes possible. But in others, perhaps there are no atoms, no light, no gravity at all, or too much gravity, collapsing the bubble before anything can breathe. These are not places you could travel to, not even in thought fully. But you can wonder, and that wonder has weight. Because if dark energy is what allows our bubble to grow, perhaps it also decides why we're here at all. This leads to another quiet question. Could it be that we live in this kind of universe because this kind is the only one where life can emerge? This idea, called the anthropic principle, doesn't say we are special. It says we are possible only in the places where possibility is allowed. Out of all the bubbles that could form, only a few have just the right balance. Too much dark energy, and galaxies couldn't form. Too little, and the universe might have collapsed early. But here, in this bubble, there is balance. You're not the reason for the balance, but your presence is a sign that it exists. You breathe that in now, not as pride, but as peace. You do not need to know every universe to know your place in this one. You look back across all the chapters, the stretching of space, the drift of galaxies, the silence between stars. And now you know that silence may not be empty. It may be a sea of other silences, other beginnings, other endings. And yet, here you are, in a quiet corner of one universe, watching light from billions of years ago and feeling the presence of something you cannot see. Dark energy, a force that not only shapes this universe, but may be the echo of something larger still. A field that bubbles, a field that breathes, a field that gives birth to countless realms, each one ticking its own strange clock in solitude. You begin to feel the edges of your own mind gently brush against the edge of mystery, not to solve it, but to feel it. This is the soft place where knowledge and wonder meet. Not to argue, but to hold hands. You're made of atoms, but also of awe. You live in space, but you float in possibility. And tonight, you have reached the far shore of that possibility. You let go of needing answers. You rest in the beauty of not knowing, because not knowing means there is still more to listen for. And just as you begin to drift towards sleep, one last thought rises gently to meet you. If this universe is one of many, what becomes of dark energy when the lights all go out? Is there a final silence even beyond the stars, or does something new begin again in the dark?